A tragic accident leads a directionless teenager to fall in love with her foster brother, but as their forbidden bond deepens, their dark past slowly unravels along with their strange behaviors. One evening, the eccentric single mother Cynthia spins her daughter Maria in an empty shopping cart as they happily sing a song. Later, she digs through a dumpster in a deserted alleyway and excitedly tells her child about the great things she's found in the container. Soon the woman pushes the shopping cart while her exhausted child sleeps amongst the scavenged items. She spots a local kid named Billy along the road as he takes his cigarette, so she tells him to go home. Days later, the sleepy girl rubs her eyes in music class instead of singing with the other students, so the strict teacher orders her to leave the room. In the laboratory, the child curiously runs her hand along the skeleton model's pelvic bone. By the afternoon, Maria pushes her way into the house because of the paper and rubbish piling up against the front door, implying that Cynthia is a hoarder. Then, as she sits on the floor to take off her shoes, she warmly greets their pet ferret Pearl. Seconds later, the mother checks the lunchbox and gets upset when she mistakenly thinks that her daughter forgot to bring home the used aluminium foil. That night, the pair carry their dinner trays to the filthy living room so they can eat their meal in front of the TV. One evening, while they bathe in the tub, Cynthia recites an aphorism and Maria repeats it like scripture. The next morning, instead of helping the girl find her uniform, the woman teaches her how to handle mean children. She says that if any of the other kids give her a hard time at school, all she needs to do is shut her eyes and scream a crude saying. In school, the child confides that she couldn't find her uniform when the teacher, Mrs. Norwood, says she'll have to spend her class in undergarments. Her fellow students laugh at her expense. Later, the embarrassed Maria eats her lunch alone on a footbridge because she blames her mother for misplacing the uniform. She throws the rubbish through the chain-link fence instead of taking it home. When she arrives at their house, the daughter storms into the living room and asks why they need all the junk piling up in their house. She adds that when she goes to other people's homes, none of them look like theirs. Cynthia reminds the child that she has a roof over her head and everything she could need, but Maria reveals that she's ashamed of their way of life and hates what they are. Later, when the woman demands to know why the girl didn't bring her garbage from school, the ladder falls to the floor and touches a slimy spot under a tarp. Panicked, she wonders if it's their pet ferret's carcass, but the mother lifts the tarp to reveal several dead rats. As Maria scrambles away from the revolting sight, she topples the iron and suffers a serious burn that evening. While the worried Cynthia thinks about everything that's happened, the girl picks at her injury in the bathroom. Then the remorseful mother tells her child that she shouldn't believe what other people say about them because they're just jealous of their love. Maria explains she didn't mean what she said earlier and just wanted to upset the woman. She adds that she loves how they live and their catalogue of love, a phrase which Cynthia uses when referring to the hoarded items. Hours later, the mother jumps out of bed and pretends that intruders are in the house, making the child giggle, implying that they often play make-believe because of what happened yesterday. Cynthia thinks her daughter should skip school, so the pair spend the entire morning drawing on each other's faces with chalk and goofing around. That afternoon, they run into Mrs. Norwood at the supermarket, who asks why the student wasn't at school today. Realizing that she was the teacher who embarrassed her child, the mother confronts her and berates her for treating Maria poorly. On their way home, the pair look at the Christmas lights from the sidewalk as the snow falls. Later, the girl asks her mother for money to buy candy from the corner store. Before she heads out, the daughter opens the Christmas gift from Cynthia and expresses her gratitude. While walking home from the store, Maria runs into a disturbed man who unzips his pants and flashes her. The frightened child soils herself and immediately runs the rest of the way home. Still shaken from what she just witnessed, the girl heads to the bedroom where she dries off her leggings on the radiator. As the child gently plays with some baby rats, she suddenly hears a loud thump from downstairs, followed by her mother crying out for help. Maria finds Cynthia under a pile of hoarded items and she realizes that a toppled tower of junk has severely injured the woman. Then the mother calls the girl over and reminds her never to forget their catalogue of love. Later, after the authorities arrive, the child tense when she overhears a cop stating that Cynthia was never fit to be a mother, so the social worker takes Maria to a foster home and places her under the care of Michelle. In the bedroom, the adults explain that because Cynthia needs to recover in the hospital, she has to stay in the foster home indefinitely. 10 years later, a teenage Maria heads downstairs to the kitchen. Michelle informs her that one of her former foster kids, Michael, will stay at their house for the next couple of weeks. shrieks when she grabs her bag in the kitchen. She hears a fork rattle on the floor and turns back around. Then the teen picks it up, looks at it curiously and takes it with her to school. Outside, Maria greets the next door neighbor Janice, who commends her for making it to the last day of school. That afternoon the student hangs out and smokes an illicit substance in the park with her best friend La. Later, as they make their way home, Peter Man in his late 20s stops his car next to the pair and the friend insists on catching a ride with him despite Maria's objections. Eventually the intoxicated teen arrives home, and as she slowly crawls up the stairs she encounters the abused Michael, who wonders what she's doing, still feeling the effects of the illicit substance from earlier. Maria asks the man to take off her shoes, which he obliges. Seconds later Michelle arrives with her friend Sam and her daughters Holly and Ellie in the kitchen. The foster mum explains that the 30-year-old man lived with her for 5 months when he was a boy, but she had to give him up because his biological brother took him in. Then Michael says that since his brother's moving abroad, he's decided to look for a place nearby for him and his girlfriend. When he walks up the stairs, Maria gives him a snide remark, so he takes a marker from her pocket and uses it to write a message on the back of her school uniform. After playfully snorting at each other, she finally lightens up and he compliments her smile. Later the man witnesses Holly and Ellie insulting the teen, but the latter has no problem standing up for herself against the sisters. Eventually La arrives to help her prepare for a night out at the bar in the establishment. The bored Maria says she wants to go home, but her friend begs her to stay. Later that night the teen meets Sean and they playfully flirt with each other while playing snooker. However, when she hears the sound of the chalk rubbing on the Q-tip, she suddenly recalls a vivid childhood memory and grazes the chalk on her cheek. Unbeknownst to Maria, Michael watches her odd behavior from across the room. Soon they return home and hang out on the trampoline in the backyard. The man confides that his mother used illicit substances, which was why he had to live with Michelle. Then he surprises the teen with the Q chalk and gently rubs it on her cheek, revealing that he noticed how much the seemingly mundane object meant to her. Moments later Michelle appears and tells her foster daughter to get back inside. The latter then asks the woman to call Larab's father to inform him that her friend is staying for the night. The next day Larab's father Ali furiously barges into the house looking for his daughter because Janice saw her with an older guy last night. Hours later a man delivers Cynthia's ashes to Maria, who quips that it's taken him 10 years to do so. However, he clarifies that they only handle the recently deceased, which means her mother died in the last 2 weeks. The perplexed look on the teen's face implies that she had no idea the parent was still alive. As she sits by the front door, the distraught Lara arrives to inform her that her father found out about her rebellious behavior and is sending her to an undisclosed location as punishment. While dazedly daydreaming, the teen sticks her hand through the mail slot when it gets stuck. Fortunately, Michael arrives and rubs cooking oil on her hand before helping her pull it out of the opening. In the struggle, a box of ashes falls over, so the man scoops the spilled contents into an empty bowl. Later they watch bullfighting on TV, but when Maria ignores him, Michael sits next to her on the couch and ingests a spoonful of Cynthia's ashes. Then when he offers the teen a spoonful, she mimics the angry bull on TV and consumes the ashes. Playing along, the man grabs a brightly colored garment and pretends he's a matador. After chasing each other all over the house and rehearsing, Maria finally pins Michael on the floor and finds an aluminium foil ball in one of his pockets. Suddenly they hear Michelle entering the front door, so they scramble back to the couch before the foster mom finds them in a compromising position. The next day she waits for Michelle to leave for work before taking the garbage bag from the bin outside. Then the pair sneak into someone's backyard, and as their teen walks by the sheets hanging on the clothesline, she remembers the strange lessons her mother used to teach her. Suddenly the homeowner catches them trespassing, and as they run away, Michael grabs one of the white sheets. When he reaches the house, Holly and Ellie inform him that his girlfriend's in the living room talking to Michelle and Sam. Before joining the women, the man hides the sheet in a console table compartment in the living room. He greets his girlfriend Leah, who's telling Michelle and Sam the paint colors she plans on using when they finally get their place. Moments later, Maria meets meets Michael's significant other and realizes that the woman's pregnant. That night he returns after taking his lover home and then joins the teen in the dining room. The man shares that he's going to be a dad and says everything just happened so fast, implying that the pregnancy wasn't planned. After the guests leave and the foster mom calls it a night, the strange pair begin rousing and rubbing food all over each other. Suddenly Maria remembers falling to the floor as a child and touching the slimy goo from the rat carcasses. Seeing the frightened look on her face, Michael comforts her and confesses how crazy he is about her. In the dining room he shows her where he hid the white sheet and says she's the best thing that's ever happened to him. However, the teen just grabs the sheet, punches him in the arm and heads upstairs to her room. The next day the man says he won't go to work because he's feeling ill, so he spends the morning following Maria as she goes dumpster diving. Later she asks Michael to burn her stomach with an iron to recreate an incident from her childhood, and he hesitantly agrees after he fulfills the strange request. The remorseful man says he needs to take her to a hospital, but she insists that it's not a big deal. Suddenly he hears a knock on the door and sees that it's Leah, wondering why he isn't at work because he doesn't want to get caught spending the day with the teen. He claims that he's sick and she can't come inside for the baby's sake, angering the woman. Moments later Maria refuses traditional first aid on her injury and asks Michael to lick on the wound instead, which he happily obliges. The next day the teen shows a homeless man what's under her dress in exchange for his toy drum. Then she plays the instrument and ambles along the sidewalk, catching Michael's attention. Concerned, he asks why she didn't include him in her bizarre routine, especially since he thought they'd only do them together. Maria says she's tired of the man condoning all of her negative behavior, and he counters that she sometimes treats him poorly. When Janice tries to intervene, the irate Michael screams and scares the woman away. That afternoon Michelle notices an awful stench by the front door and finds stashed garbage inside the closet. The foster daughter doesn't own up to it and takes the rubbish out to the bin as she's told. Then the woman points out how disheveled and smelly the teen is and wonders how long it's been since she last showered. Annoyed, Michelle points out that it's been 5 months since Maria finished high school and she expects her to keep the house clean. After the foster mum leaves, the teen excitedly grabs the garbage from the bin and spreads the rubbish all over the living room floor. That night she wanders outside and meets a woman at a bus stop who shares that she just lost her baby. Following a heartfelt conversation about grief, Maria gives the stranger her coat and receives a small alligator figurine in return. Soon the teen walks home barefoot and the cold causes the skin on her toes to swell from poor circulation. When she enters the house, Michael sees her injury and tenderly cares for her. Later Maria initiates intimacy, so the man clarifies that he likes her not just because he wants to sleep with her. However, when she assures him she wants to do the deed, they finally make love for the first time. The next day Michelle answers the door to let Leah in and sees the ring on her finger, prompting the pregnant woman to explain that the man proposed to her yesterday. While Leah talks to her boyfriend in the living room, the clueless foster mom tells the teen about the engagement. Moments later Michelle tells the man that they already know about the engagement and he says that it just felt like the right time. However, Leah snidely remarks that she's been asking for a ring for the longest time, implying that the man only proposed because he felt pressured to do so. That night Michael chases Maria on the sidewalk, begging her to talk to him. Suddenly they hear a scream and find a woman lying in the middle of the street. After a hit and run, while he gets help, the injured woman perishes and the teen places coins over her eyes. Then Maria walks to the nearest dumpster, removes her jacket and long-sleeved shirt and climbs inside the filthy container there. Next day the barefoot teen makes her way home while carrying 2 garbage bags. When she enters the house, the worried foster mum asks where she was all night and wonders if she used illicit substances since she's mumbling to herself. Maria doesn't acknowledge anyone's presence and just dazedly makes her way upstairs to her room. Suddenly Leah arrives and admonishes her boyfriend for breaking up with her last night. Through voicemail, the pregnant woman blames Michelle for poisoning the man's mind, and while the women get into a scuffle, Michael heads upstairs and tells the teen to open the door. Eventually he manages to get inside, but to his horror he sees that the room's filled with hoarded trash. However, Maria doesn't notice anything else around her because she remembers all the wonderful memories she had with her mother in their old house. The tearful Michael begs the teen to love him the way he loves her, but she rejects him, and the foster mom calmly asks him to leave before Leah Heads down the stairs. Maria hands her the alligator figurine and tells her never to leave her daughter when she tries to explain that the hoard is both hers and her mother's. Michelle comforts her and says she understands why she did it on New Year's Eve. The woman helps her foster daughter throw away the trash from the bedroom to the teen's delight. Lara returns after an extended absence and implies that the trip helped repair her relationship with her father. After dinner, Michelle prepares to head out to work, and before she leaves, the foster daughter expresses how much she loves the woman. Later, Maria transfers Cynthia's ashes into a Ziploc bag and waits for Sam and her daughters to fall asleep. Then she sneaks into a recycling center, ties the Ziploc bag onto a firework and lights the fuse. The teen acknowledges that grief never heals over time and simply disguises itself as other things. As Maria watches the fireworks light up the night sky, she tells Cynthia how much she loves her and how their love catalog persists even after all these years.